This video is the follow-up to the first video on inequality and poverty. This one is looking at policies to alleviate poverty, things that the government might do to try and sort of rectify any problem that they've identified. It's quite an interesting question right at the beginning of this, is to ask the extent to which poverty is self-inflicted, because this really drives the decision-making that the governments are going to do. You find some governments may take an attitude, probably a sort of free market, capitalist, classical, if you like, attitude towards poverty, which is that to a certain extent, people get themselves into the situation of poverty, and it's not the government's responsibility to get them out of it. There's plenty of opportunities for people to work hard and make a living and increase their income. If they choose not to do that, then they've only got themselves to blame. And then, so that's sort of one extreme sort of view. And then you have more, I guess, benevolent governments or economies, more socialist perhaps, that might take the view that actually equality of opportunity is not something that is readily forthcoming, and that it is the government's responsibility to try and act to ensure that people don't fall into the poverty trap and live, as we saw, on sort of relatively low incomes. So what sort of things will they do? Well, the obvious one is taxation. And we need to remember, though, that taxes are levied for a number of reasons. It isn't just about alleviating poverty. There is here at the bottom, the change in the distribution of income is obviously one thing that they might choose to do. So how do they do it? Well, we've got different types of taxes. What we call direct taxes are those imposed directly on people's wealth or income. You need to be familiar with income taxes. It's taxes on individuals, workers. Wealth taxes, so tax on any increase in your assets, for example, property. And corporation taxes, which are taxes on firms' profits. They're all direct taxes. Indirect taxes are taxes that are on expenditure or consumption-based taxes, things like sales tax, value-added tax in Europe, duties on cigarettes and alcohol. What's important about these taxes is the way that they're set up. So we refer to progressive taxes, which take a higher percentage of your income as your income rises, a regressive tax, which takes a higher percentage of your income as your income falls, and proportional tax, which takes the same percentage of income, whatever your income level. Now, obviously, the direct taxes, the taxes on income, are the obvious ones that can be made progressive, and they often are. So you do find that governments choose to tax a higher percentage rate for people in over a certain income level, and lower tax rates for those below. What's important to remember is that indirect taxes, by and large, tend to be regressive in nature. Okay, so they're not proportional, although everyone pays the same amount of tax on a packet of cigarettes. As a percentage of your income, it's a higher percentage of a lower income person's income than it is for a higher income person's income. So the tax becomes regressive. If you wanted to show this diagrammatically, what you go back to is your Lorenz curve. So you can just say that, explain that if a government does become more progressive in their taxation, then what they're doing is trying to move this Lorenz curve in towards the line of equality. There are a couple of slides where you can just sort of test your understanding of how much is paid in tax. It's particularly important for higher level students who need to know average and marginal tax rates and how to calculate them. There's a couple of slides on that. And then the final thing is that you're asked to consider other policies to reduce inequalities. It isn't just about taxes. Government can do a number of other things. So you have a list of factors here, like investment in human capital, in education and health. Transfer payments are all of those welfare payments that are made to people. Universal basic income, we sort of mentioned before, minimum wages. So there's a number of things that you need to be able to evaluate in order to answer any question on further policies to reduce